Hi, I'm Alec from Easier Habits, and I help entrepreneurs harness the power of good habits to launch successful products and services. Today, I'd like to talk about some of the emotional and psychological curveballs that working for yourself throws at you. You know it's coming, but you're not quite prepared for the particular spin it takes. I'll be talking about 4 challenges that took me by surprise and very briefly how I dealt with them. Overall, there's a lot of stress in being an entrepreneur. And what will really see you through that, what will help you become resilient, is having carefully crafted mental health and physical health routines that will see you through the stress. So if you want to go more in detail into routines that you can take that will help you reduce stress as an entrepreneur, you can check out a blog article I wrote, link below in the description, and you can see a bunch of ideas that you can play with, find what works for you and helps you move past the discouragement and anxieties of being an entrepreneur. Curveball number 1. Of course, I knew working for myself was a huge undertaking, right? I thought I was prepared for this, and I was working on the business in my nights and weekends, even before I quit my job. So I thought, all right, I'm prepared. But one thing I mistakenly believed was that it would be less overwhelming when I had more time, and that was really not true. It's just as overwhelming when you have more time, and then now you have additional challenge in figuring out how to best use your time. I was surprised to find that sometimes it was actually easier to work on my business as a part-time gig because I had to time box it. I had to set time limits on things. I couldn't become super anxious and worry about something for days, where when I started working for myself completely full-time the whole day, I could obsess about anything endlessly. And so I had to relearn how to break things down into small chunks, because when I had the freedom to work on things longer, it actually made my life a little bit more complex in that sense. Now, as I learned to use my time better and chip away at the problems of working for myself, obviously my learning was accelerated and it was helpful to have more time. But initially, when you have a lot of time, especially when you're not used to organizing your entire day for yourself, you're used to other people organizing your day for you, throwing meetings on your calendar, etc., and you're only maybe accounting for like a few hours of work and a few hours after work, that's a lot less personal and project time management than you will have when you have all day, every day to figure out when and how you're going to work. As I mentioned before, time boxing was pretty key. And so I've gotten to the point, for example, if I'm looking at launching a new product or a new workshop or something else, I will do market research and I'll time box my initial market research to a couple hours. Keep it short and sweet because it is something I could do for days. And I need to just start somewhere and figure out, do I have enough to go on? Is this worth researching more? Because if I don't set any time limit, for example, on that activity, I will spend days agonizing over it. And the subsequent days that I spend on it will get less and less productive. Now, of course, I worked in Silicon Valley. I knew that discouragement and failure was part of being an entrepreneur. Move fast and break things, fail forward, and all of that, right? So I was ready for failure. Well, not exactly. So what I didn't realize when I left my job to work for myself was how much I was shielded from the consequence of my failures at work versus working for myself. It's kind of like sitting on someone's shoulder and dunking basketballs, and then all of a sudden just trying to dunk them by yourself, right? I'm not as tall as I thought I was. So what happens at a company is that you fail all the time, just like you fail in starting a new business. But what you're doing is being subsidized by the success of the most outstanding performers in the company right now and by past successes, so that when you do fail, it's relatively small, right? You may have a meeting about why you failed. And in fact, I found it frustrating when I worked for other companies how little people seem to learn from failure or care about it. They just move on to the next project, right? You can do that when you have a company with a lot of money saved up. And, most things do fail. Some things do succeed. So if you have a company where enough things are going right, it's not a big deal. What is different when you work for yourself is all of a sudden you get nothing until you have a success of your own. And wow, that is humbling. And you're going to feel, or I felt really stupid. You may also feel really stupid. It's not that you're stupid. In fact, you're probably learning and becoming smarter than ever. What you're not getting is that huge advantage in starting ahead at a company where you're already building on top of successes. So for me, what really helped with this is learning, especially in the early stages of a business, to scope my projects smaller so I don't overinvest in something that's likely to fail, and all early projects are likely to fail. And defining success as learning. I believe in the book Growth Hacking, they talk about you have to have the right metrics for success in your company, and some of those should be learning for early stage products, because that is the point of a lot of these exercises. So it's less at the very early stages when you're really starting a company and trying to figure out anything that works. There's several things that have to align. You have to have the right customer segment. You have to have the right value proposition. You, as a medium for that value proposition, have to be able to deliver it convincingly and confidently. And there's all sorts of other things that can happen. Your position relative to other competitors, right? Your unique value proposition versus theirs. You have to get all of these pieces right. If one of them's wrong, you're not going to see traction. And since initially something in there is going to be wrong, you're going to be doing a lot of failing. So what you want to do is test your assumptions in this quickly and rapidly, and define success as learning something, i.e. validating, do I have the right customer segment? All right, let me rethink that, see if I can find a different one, and see if these people resonate with the idea I'm telling. All right, those people buy these types of products, they like my idea, but I need to figure out how to communicate with them. What is the language they use? What is the language they respond to, etc. So you start iterating and trying new things, and your initial attempts won't work. And it's not that you are a failure, it's just that there is a lot of learning that has to take place before you get your first successes. And that's especially hard when you're used to being welcomed into a company where immediately you get to build on top of somebody else's successes. Another psychological sucker punch or curveball that I experienced when I started working for myself was the isolation. Again, I knew I wouldn't have coworkers and I'd be meeting less people, and I was somewhat prepared for that. And sometimes, I can be a bit of a hermit. So I was okay with that. I figured I have enough hobbies, I have connections at church, I could get to know my neighbors. There will be plenty of people for me to meet. I won't have enough time for all of them. But what really took me by surprise was the level of imposter syndrome that I had to deal with. In engineering, there's a lot of people who have imposter syndrome, since there's more engineering stuff than any one person can know, and especially when you're dealing with front-end technologies, that's the coding you see in your browser. Those things are changing so fast that relatively few engineers accurately keep up with the day-to-day developments. And so it's easy to feel imposter syndrome there. But when I started out as a coach, even after training in a corporate setting, even after being a crisis counselor, having an advanced degree in instruction, all of those things, even having personally tested myself coaching and run, offered to coach people I knew for free to help them get jobs, help them in different areas. So I knew which area of coaching I wanted to go into. And I did all of that. I was very well prepared. What felt very humbling and where I felt like an imposter is I was a new coach. And how all coaches present themselves is like, I have tons of clients. I keep going this, but I saw it all over the place. I help these people get to from 0 to 6-figure salary in a month. That's totally unrealistic. I actually talked to a coach that was saying that, and there's a lot of people who coach coaches. It's a huge business. And I asked him, "Oh, is that a standard? Are those like the typical results you see?" And silence, absolute silence when questioned on that. So there's a lot of people that are talking themselves up, establishing really unrealistic expectation, and that made me feel like I was doing something wrong. And that made me a little bit nervous when meeting new people. And they asked, what do you do? And really the answer right after I quit my job was like, oh, I'm figuring out how to be a coach. You feel like everyone wants you to already know your job, right? To have already done it or to be a coach for a million years. And early on, I got people who asked me specifically, how many people have you coached before? How many people are you currently coaching? Which was aggravated by the fact that in my personal philosophy, one of the things I want to leave time for is to do small part-time ventures myself or collaborate with other people on ventures so that I'm getting constant practical experience that I can balance with all of my past experience to keep current, that I can balance the theory from the psych books and other books that I read. And so I had a particular strategy as a coach where I wanted to be a coach and entrepreneur that limited the number of coaches that I could take on at one time and made it look like I was doing even less as a coach versus someone who what they want to be doing all day, every day is telling other people how to be an entrepreneur and not necessarily keeping up their own experience, right? Different business model. But I felt really insecure about it because it's different. And eventually what I realized is that one, I'm always going to have a lot to learn. So I'm never going to know it all. And I don't want to pretend to be one of those people who does. What I do know is how to work the process, how to develop a product for low cost, how to make sure that you're learning consistently, how to establish good routines that will inevitably result not only in a successful product, but in you developing the skills to develop successful products so that you can more confidently go forward in the future and create not just this product, but future products using the right process, using a process that will not run you into the ground with expensive costs before you validate it, etc. So I know habits, I know lean product development, and I know especially agile and software development. So on top of that, I have my crisis counseling, English degree, some communication in there. So I have a lot to teach people. And what I realized is I don't have to know everything. I routinely recommend experts in certain areas if people are interested in negotiation. Chris Voss is amazing. If people want to know like neuroscience hacks, Alex Huberman is great. I don't have to know everything that they know, and so that I can teach every one of my clients about everything from neuroscience to like hostage negotiation. That's Chris Voss. He was a FBI hostage negotiator, but he's also applied that to business, which is fascinating. So anyway, right? I don't have to know everything. And when I talk about what I do, I don't have to brag. I just have to tell people what I'm working on that I'm excited about. And, right now it's try and help you avoid the psychological sucker punches of being an entrepreneur for the first time. So when I learned to lead conversations with my mission and my vision that I'm passionate about, with some of the excitement I have for like the results my clients are getting, and for me, that is very much not just like 6 figures, new huge success. It's a life change, life quality, launching more projects and learning more from them, because that's the process that eventually will get you to success. All of these coaches want to pretend like you take your course and immediately your next project will be a success. Well, I'm sorry. business world really doesn't that work that way. You're lucky if 1 in 3 projects is doing successfully. But what I will do is help you launch more products so that you get more of those successes. And that takes all sorts of skill and discipline within product development, as well as personally, to have the energy and focus you need to consistently deliver results and be at your peak performance. So when I learned to lead with some of those ideas that I'm excited about and not apologize because I'm different than other coaches who are offering, a 6-figure salary in your new business next month, then that opened up for me and I could connect with people a lot more. So I'll admit I'm a little bit of an anxious person. So I was anxious about my business before I quit my job. I thought I knew all there was to know about anxiety. But when I quit my job, what I didn't realize is that I was leaving behind a lot of anti-stress routines. So, for example, one of those is that by having a hard time limit, especially when I had my commute, even when I was telecommuting, I'd have to be on and available by a certain time. That forced me to do my daily routines of like exercise, meditation, prayer, sometimes even a little bit of light reading. My morning was on point, but then when I didn't have a deadline set by somebody else, when I set my own deadlines, I let that slide a lot more. And then I would have days where I hadn't gone through my full routine, and so I wasn't as resilient to stress. And that would make me feel more tired, which would make it harder to get outside and exercise. So until I learned to develop new cues, all right, when, this is when I do my exercise, this is when I do my meditation, etc., then I started becoming more resilient. Now, that's true with my morning routine, but it's also true with routines at work. So one of the things I did more at work than I did as an entrepreneur early on was I'd almost always take a mid-afternoon walk to just get some space and think about the big picture. But when I was all of a sudden working for myself, and I think also when I, went virtually and was just working from home, I stopped doing that so much. And that was a big de-stressor. And of course, going back to isolation, right? You can talk shop with your coworkers, things you're excited about, you can get more excited about, things you're frustrated by, you can, as long as you're careful and avoid office politics, you can, blow off some steam. And so I had to figure out how to build those routines. All right, I had some cues after this meeting at work, I would go walk. Well, if it's just, for instance, my admin day where I don't have appointments, when do I take my walk, right? I have to create a cue there. Or I have an accountability partner where we make weekly goals, which can be both personal and work, but that's an area where I get to talk to someone about how work is going. And that's just, fantastic. That's helped me process work so I don't endlessly brood over it to no effects. I can say what I'm going through. I can I get clarifying questions. I can make a clear goal, something to change for next week, and I can move on rather than keeping all the stress inside. So those were all examples of routines I had to start to develop. And so that is one of the things to watch out for when you transition to working for yourself or working for someone else to working for yourself, or even working in an office to telecommuting. Many of the same issues actually do apply. So if you're feeling extra anxious working for yourself, it might also be because your routines are less on point. And I have seen this actually with clients too, who when they start up a particular exercise routine or a gratitude routine or a meditation, it's different for everybody, right? People have their own habits that work for them, but when they have a routine that does work for them, they feel less stressed, they feel more excited about their job, they have more energy for their job, and they end up being able to do more because they have these resilience routines that keep them from obsessing over the anxiety or the overwhelm or the isolation, discouragement, etc. If this video has been helpful for you, Please like so that other entrepreneurs can find it, and subscribe so that you can get more of my content. If you would like help navigating the multiple steep learning curves of becoming an entrepreneur, go ahead to easierhabits.com and sign up for a free consultation. I can help you establish your goals and next steps. And if you're interested, no pressure, we can continue in weekly paid coaching sessions. My clients find that they are less stressed and anxious, more confident, more excited about their work, able to start health and productivity habits that keep them at their best, habits that they haven't been able to keep for years, and that ultimately they start and launch projects that they have been putting off for months and years and gain a velocity and momentum in their business that they did not have on their own. Until next week, make big changes, one small habit at a time.